Welcome to the Big Play Podcast with Dr. Marlon Williams. I am your host, Dr. Marlon Williams. And today's episode focuses on the Southwest DeKalb High School Alumni Festival. Now, anyone who knows that back in the day, particularly in the early 80s and 90s, Southwest DeKalb High School was a nationally known and ranked football program. No one was touching what we were doing, especially in the category of sending athletes to school who were actually getting there and contributing to the programs that they were a part of. Also, our Alumni Association. And really, there was no association back then. It was just the alumni. Southwest DeKalb Panthers are super proud of being Panthers, and we all bleed and bled navy blue and old gold. Capturing the spirit and the Panther pride of the Alumni Association, Danny Davison, class of 91, decided to create and organize what has since become known as the Southwest DeKalb High School Alumni Festival. This has been wildly successful, with hundreds of alumni returning during the event to have what is basically a tailgate on steroids without a football game. Fantastic experience, lots of love, the way SWD Panthers do. Well, this success has not come without a bit of controversy surrounding Danny Davison. And there have been rumors and grumbling about what he does and what he doesn't do and how he does what he does. And I personally just never knew what the facts were, but I wanted to know. I've never spoken to Danny directly about this, and I've never spoken to his critics about the rumors and the grumblings. So I decided to invite Danny Davison and his most outspoken critic, Mickey Scott Walker, class of 84, onto the podcast to discuss their thoughts and feelings around the festival. So what you're about to hear is part one of the conversation, where Danny explains his perspective and Mickey shares hers. My hope is that after this conversation, part one, part two, and possibly part three, whatever it takes, we're going to get to the bottom of it. But my hope is that as a unit, we can move forward as a SWD alumni, because we are the University of Southwest DeKalb High School, and people tend to want to be like us. And there are no other high school alums that match what we do. There's only one, but I'm not even going to shout them out on this. But you know who you are. But SWD is where it's at. Southwest, say it with your chest. So you may be asking yourself, why is this a topic on the Big Play Podcast with Dr. Marlon Williams? Well, Danny Davison actually played football for Southwest DeKalb High School. And being a former athlete, I would say that one could argue that this festival has been a pretty big play for him. It has grown tremendously, and I'm sure he has used his athletic background to assist him in being successful with putting this on. He has that blue and gold spirit. He has that Panther pride, having been a football player during the golden era, I might add, of Southwest DeKalb High School football. So I thought it was quite fitting to have this show and this episode focusing on the SWD Alumni Festival. So here it is, conversation part one, Southwest DeKalb High School Alumni Festival with Danny Davison and Mickey Scott Walker. Hope you enjoy. Go ahead, Danny. You were going to start off with how this all got started with the Alumni Festival.
Okay, and Mickey, just jump in if I say something that's not correct, because I know me and you've had conversations about this before. But from my understanding,
you got it.
From my understanding, that it actually started in 2010 or 11 with Steve Davenport, Stanley Davenport. I'm not sure if there was another cookout the next year or any years previously. I mean, after that was actually conducted or ran by Steve and Stanley. But in 2013, Rollins Hinton, Rodney Harper, and a couple other people, they did one at Wade Walker Park. And then my iteration started in 2015, right? So in how that came about, let me tell you a story how that came about. So I was actually talking to Rhonda Daniels, your classmate, Marlon. We were sitting in Dugan's on Flat Shoals Parkway, and she just mentioned it to me. She said, you need to start it back up. And I didn't understand why she thought that I should do it at that moment, but after things begin to kind of get rolling, I did understand why she said me, right? I have a very unique relationship as it comes to being acquainted with Southwest DeKalb. I was actually at Southwest DeKalb long before I was even able to enroll at Southwest DeKalb. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Mickey's classmate, Elaine Love, used to babysit me. And ironically, she doesn't remember that. We talk about that a lot and she don't remember that, but she used to babysit me. So I used to have to, when I got out of school, she would take me up to the school with her because her brother Corey was playing football. So I was
Actually, Elaine Love is my brother's classmate. She's older than I am. She just looks way better.
Oh, okay. All right. So I spent a lot of time up there, you know, even as a young child. I mean, I met a bunch of people before I even got there. And then class of 87, Todd Stalker was my neighbor, and I used to go up there with him as well too. So I spent a lot of time up there, mainly because I was a big kid, so nobody thought I was that young, right? So everybody kind of thought I fit in anyway, and I didn't want to embarrass myself or the people I was with. So most of the time, I just kind of played the background. But I was big enough to be around, so I understood that's what Rhonda was saying to me, like, you need to start it, because I already had a relationship with the older classmates as well as the classmates that were behind me. So 2015 is when I actually started it and took it over, for the lack of a better word. So it was at Salem Park on Salem in Lithonia. And it just went from there. Like it started there. I did have a couple of people over to my house to kind of think about, you know, how it would work, how things would play out, you know, just trying to get a feel for what everybody wanted to see. And nobody that I talked to, no one that I talked to really had the same vision that I had for the Alumni Festival being what it is. It was actually a cookout at the time. But I always, you know, took in people's advice. I always listened to people. I always kind of took in information from everybody just kind of see, you know, how things should play out or whatever. So 2017 is when it took off. That's when it just went through the roof. And we had, I want to say, 26 classes that actually fully participated. And that's where it kind of got to where it is now, like where, you know, the success of it.
So Danny,
from that point.
Let me ask you a question. When you say you started it, in terms of when you took it over, I'm assuming no one else was doing it. Were you doing this as a pet project on your own, or were you affiliated with the school, or were you connected with the Alumni Association? Or were you just a solo practitioner in regard to putting on the festival?
Well, yeah, it was just, and I like that solo practitioner. Yeah, that was just something that I took on as a project. It wasn't affiliated with the Alumni Association or anything. It was simply me saying, hey, I want to do this, and I'm sure everybody else would be, you know, encouraged or want to be a part of it as well. So it was all, you know, from my thought process after I had the conversation with Rhonda. You know, once Rhonda talked, we had that long conversation. It just kind of went from there.
Mickey, did you have any questions or anything you want to say
No,
about this so far?
no, no. I mean,
Okay.
so far what he's saying, is correct. I think you're Danny's leaving out the part where he had parties. I mean, we did the cookouts before 2017, and we had great participation. I think it's just it's trended to a different thing where 2017 was I think maybe even 16 was just as good as 17 was. But we started well, I say we, Danny started it at that location across the street from whatever school it was. And that it was yeah, it was good then. I mean, we enjoyed it. I think what ended up happening was we just got too big. Once people realized that we were having a great time and other schools started coming, then then Danny kicked it off to a different location, and I think 2016 was great as well. So I'm not going to say that it all kicked off in 17 because 16 was good too. 15 was good. I had a great time every time I went.
Okay. Danny, what are some of the things that you've heard? Because you're the main person, I'm sure, hearing different rumors and et cetera. Is there anything in particular
I mean, it's always
Let's put all our cards on the table.
So,
I think this podcast, Danny, is honestly where we need to put all our cards on the table. Nobody needs to be delicate. Nobody I think what we need to make sure that we do is take our emotions out and let's have honest dialogue about things. So whatever you've heard, if you've heard I've said it, I have no problem admitting, yep, that's exactly what I said. So please let's use this platform to be as honest as possible with each other. Fair?
Okay,
yeah,
I think that's a very good point. And I'm glad that you're willing to share anything that you may have said in the past. But I think that there are other things that Danny may have heard. So I don't know where you want to start, Danny. You want to start with Mickey, or do you want to start with other? Because I'm hoping that this conversation can kind of address as much as possible.
Okay.
No, it's no one particular thing. I mean, there was, that was a barnstorm of things that was said. But there's always the conversation about money, right? There's always the conversation of where the money going and what's happening with money. So, and that was generally the conversation about what was going on with the festival or whatever. And I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know when these rumors started or how they even got started. I don't know. But it seems things like this always happen when there's success with certain things. There's always, an assumption of something happening or something going on or anything. Like there's always that assumption because 2015, 2016, 2017, there was no conversation of money. And part of the reason why is because 2015, I funded actually everything getting started. 2016.
Why don't you tell us, Danny? Why don't you tell us about some of the things that you had to do to get the festival going where it's going now? Like, what were some of the monetary contributions you had to make on your own? Some of the legwork that you had to do. Some of the things that you had to put in place for it to be successful and safe for everybody that was attending.
Well, I'm going to start at the very beginning, right? So let's just say, because every year that even in 2015, like I didn't physically live in the city. I was working and living somewhere else, as I do right now, and I come home on the weekends. So my financial contribution was way more than what anybody else's would have been, right? So me booking a flight, coming home, running around, like my contribution to actually getting things started there, right? So the next part is actually going to DeKalb County, because the parks were in DeKalb County, and trying to facilitate the park, or rent the park out, right? So that was the next part, figuring out what the cost is, what the cost is for the park, what kind of things they needed from me, providing them with, any information, so that we can have the best time possible without impression or stepping over the boundaries of what DeKalb County allowed, right? So that was the first contribution. I mean, that was the first thing that happened in 2015, right? So, and I don't particularly remember how much it cost for the park, to rent the park, but there was park rental. There was I had to get a liquor license.
We didn't have liquor.
That was one. I had to get a liquor license, and
Danny,
there was something else
Danny,
that
hold on
required. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Danny?
Yeah.
All right. So, this conversation, I know Mickey said leave emotions out of it, but one thing I've learned about Southwest DeKalb Panthers and people who went to Southwest DeKalb, particularly in our era, we are very passionate about Southwest DeKalb. And
absolutely,
even though we in our minds are intellectualizing that, okay, we're going to leave emotion out of it, it's not always that easy. So I think it would be helpful if we just let each other talk and not necessarily interrupt. And if we have any questions, maybe jot them down so we can ask them when there's an opportunity to speak. But Danny, appreciate you. But Danny, you so you have put quite a few years into this and some legwork into this. How about, I think it'd be helpful if we did just kind of cut to the chase on some of this stuff.
Okay.
I just saw, I'm seeing chat. There are people in the chat providing their input. Rhonda Daniels just mentioned the noise ordinance fee. So there were quite a few things that had to be put in place for this to happen without people going to jail, right?
Right.
Mickey, what are your primary concerns with what you perceive and how Danny has managed the festival?
So my primary concern was it started when Danny asked for help. He said, "Hey, I need help. I've had some things come up. Can somebody assist me with doing it this year, because I can't do it all by myself?" Absolutely, let me help. First thing I said was, "I'm here, let me help. What can I do?" And nothing ever came of that. And then Danny said to me, well, he didn't want my help because he didn't want me telling him what to do. And part of what happens is when you get a number of people that can assist you, you have to realize that maybe there's another way to do things. Maybe there's an easier way to do things. And like Danny said, he wasn't here. Now, I don't know if he was here at the time. All I know is he asked for help and I offered to help. Can we get a committee together? If everybody is offering to help, if there are a number of people offering to help, let's get together. Let's talk about it. Let's not put everything on Danny's shoulders. That didn't happen. So that was my first issue. My second issue came about where he's saying, hey, at one point he said, hey, we've got a meeting. I think there was a meeting scheduled for May. Now the picnic is in August. Meeting scheduled for May. And I'm like, why are we waiting until May to have a conversation about a meeting for the picnic that happens in August? Why haven't we secured that meeting long before May? But neither here nor there. So that was my first question. And I said, okay, well, when's the meeting? I can go. No, Mickey, I don't want you to go. Not sure why I can't be a part of it. Not sure why I can't go. Not sure why I can't hear what everyone else is saying, what they're saying to people. So at that point, I began to have my issues. What's happening? What's going on? Why is it only certain people are allowed to attend meetings? Why are only certain people allowed to be a part of it? If you're asking for help, why are only certain people allowed to help? Why cannot everyone help? So at that point, I began to question everything at all times. And then we talked about, he put out there about the costs. So, okay, cool. What are we paying for? When he finally broke down the budget on Facebook, there were things that I questioned. Why are we buying cleaning fees if we have a cleaning company? The cleaning company should, if we're paying a cleaning company, they should bring their own stuff. They should have their own cleaning supplies. We've hired a cleaning company. There were a number of things that I began to question. And because I started questioning things, then I'm the bad guy in the whole situation. And I'll be honest, I was sent several screenshots, inbox messages where where conversations were being had about me. I was being called the B word. I was being labeled a troublemaker. I was being said that I was a liar. Things of that nature, I don't appreciate. I ask questions of everyone at all times because that's what I do. I'm in insurance. I investigate things for a living. And when numbers don't make sense, then I want to understand why the numbers aren't making sense. And I think that's where it's gone to. It went so far as to last year where I was told, Danny said to me, hey, you and your class don't even have to come. Cool beans. And then he apologized to one of my classmates about what he said to me, and instead of apologizing to me. And so I got in that classmate's behind. I said, listen, you don't tell me an apology from a man who owes me an apology. We're not going to have that. I said, so you don't have to talk to me ever again either. I'm fine with it. So that's where it continues to happen, where I'm being taught. Listen, I have no problem saying how I feel about someone to their face. But if you talk about me, do it to my face. Don't do it behind my back. And that's where my problem continues to stem from. I feel like there's a lot of mistrust. I don't trust where everything is going. And I get it. Listen, if part of this is to make a profit, I don't have a problem with that. But at least say that. Say this is what we're doing with the money. I get 20% of what we collect. Say that. I'm okay with it. To me, transparency is everything. And if you're transparent with where the money's going and what the money is being used for, and if you're transparent saying, hey, I get to keep 20%, then say that. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have a problem with it. I'm pretty sure nobody else would have a problem with it. But when you hide and duck and dodge, at that point, it becomes questionable. And I don't like questionable things.
All right. So the first thing that Mickey mentioned, you mentioned that Danny asked for help, you offered help, and then he never responded or came back to you to follow through with you helping. Is that accurate?
That's where it started. Yep.
Remember that, Danny?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just changed my mind. Yeah, it's just as simple as that. I changed my mind. I just decided that I didn't want Mickey to help. I just changed my mind. And it wasn't just Mickey. It wasn't just Mickey.
Okay.
It was a couple of other people that I just decided that I just wanted to do it my way, right? There was a vision that I had, and there were things that I wanted to see play out, and I just decided to go another direction. And based upon how this festival has turned out, I feel like I did the right thing. It's not a slight on Mickey or whoever else that I initially asked to be a part of the planning. I just decided to go in another direction.
Okay. Did you tell them that?
Tell them what? That I decided to go in another direction?
Yes.
I think I mentioned to Mickey, I think I told Mickey that I probably didn't say another direction, but I think I may have said something like, that's all right. I changed my mind, I'm going to do this, or, I'm pretty sure I said something. I didn't just blow her off.
Mickey, do you remember a follow-up conversation?
Yeah, he said he didn't want me to be a part of it because he wanted to do it his own way. Those were his words. He said, I don't want you to be a part of it. I'm going to do it my own way. I don't want you telling me what to do. Okay.
Meetings held that you were told you could not attend.
Yeah.
Danny, do you remember that?
Yeah. So I don't know if it was, I think it was last year. So I don't remember the nature of how things started or what happened or whatever, but I did tell her that. I did say that to her because the information that I was getting from the other classmates in 84 and what was the contention between me and Mickey was conflicting, right? So that's why I made the statement. Like, you and your class don't have to participate. I made that statement clean. Like, I don't know. I wasn't going to hide behind it because, as I said, I don't know what the conflict was between me. I don't really remember, what it was, but the information that was actually coming from her classmates and her was, it was in two different directions. So my thing was, let me facilitate the people who actually want to be there. Let me make sure the people that actually want to come and participate, let me focus on them.
Okay.
But,
Mickey, do you have a response?
Let me say this. Yes, that was at a later time. I initially asked to attend the meeting where you were talking with the county to set up everything because I think you couldn't attend, and you put out there saying, hey, can somebody else attend the meeting? And I said, yeah, I can attend that meeting. And I was blown off. So, that's where it started for me. When people that are willing to help are being pushed out, then my concern is, what are we all hiding? What's happening? Go ahead.
Right.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. So and I think my biggest problem is the accusation of hiding something, right? Right. So there's nothing to hide. There's nothing, like anybody could have went down to the county and found out how much it costs to rent the park. Anybody could have found that information out. It's not like it's privileged information, right? But my reasoning for changing, or even, deciding to go down there with, for myself is because I wanted to establish the relationship with DeKalb County, because my vision was where it has already arrived. Right. So I wanted to meet the players. I wanted to see who I needed to talk to just in case I needed to ask for some extra favors from someone else. Like I wanted to make sure that I made the first contact. So it was not to slight you. And I'm sorry that you felt like I was slighting you, but no, it was my vision. This was totally what I was trying to make come to life. And my vision had everything to do with what I put into it and what I wanted to give to it and to make it to what it has become. This has never been personal for me with anybody. I took a lot of personal attacks and a lot of things. And there were a couple years where I did emotionally say, I'm not doing this shit no more. Like, yeah, but this was bigger than me. It's always been bigger than me. It's been so many things that come out of this for everybody else, which was a part of my vision. So at the end of the day, there was, Mickey, I'll say this. I did handle that situation last year. It probably was emotional. I'm not going to say probably, because probably means there's more guilt on you than it is on me. I handled the situation wrong. So I owe you an apology for saying what I said to you. No ifs, no ands, no buts. I owe you an apology, and I'm sorry.
And I appreciate that. I do. My other issues are the things that you said about me to other people, which came back to me, which is why I learned additional things that I didn't even know. And honestly, I didn't want to know. I didn't need to know your personal business, but people came to me with it once they saw how you were responding to me on Facebook and how you were inboxing them about me. So they turned around and came to me and said, oh, well, this happened and this happened, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so at that point, I'm out of it. I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to deal with this dude. If you're going to go around and call me a bitch, nah, bro. I don't have to deal with that. At any given moment, I don't have to deal with that. And that's why for the past 2 years, I haven't even participated because I'm not going to. And a number of my classmates won't participate just based upon how you've done things. And you don't like people to ask you questions. And that's unfair because we should be able to ask. And when the person that, why what?
Why should you be able to ask me questions?
Because you asked for help. And that's when, yeah, when you ask for help, and people are
after he declined to help, what was the rationale for being able to ask questions then?
Well, because when you declined my help saying you didn't want me to be involved. You wanted to do it your way, and like you said, I would take over, which could be, you're probably accurate in that. I may be a little bossy, so I'm bossy. Let me just accept it. And so, yeah, but at the end of the day, I've always asked what's going on with the money? How does the money break down? Are you even raising enough? I've said that from A1 day one.
I would like to say that I think it's great that Danny offered an apology, and I believe you accepted it. Is that accurate?
I accept it. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So awesome. I think it's great that I haven't had dealings with you to know whether or not you're bossy, but for you to say that you are bossy, I think that's awesome as well. So,
I admit my faults, Marlon.
Indeed, as we all should. And it's not a fault. That's actually one of your assets. It's just something we all have our different attributes. But I will bring into the conversation something that was shared with me. Danny just asked you the question, why should you be able to ask him questions? And and I believe that's coming from him moving in his mind as a solo practitioner relative to the festival. Is that right, Danny?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And so I think where the lines get blurred there, Danny, is the fact that it's being called the SWD Alumni Festival. And so some have argued that the fact that you're calling it that is, in some ways, they say it can be misleading because instead of being the Danny Festival, it's actually being called the SWD Alumni Festival, if that's what the actual name is. And that can blur the lines a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Because there's specifically, it is specifically that. It's just organized by me. I mean, this is it's an event for Southwest DeKalb alumni. Period. You know, that's what the name of it is. That's what it's geared towards. That's, you know, what the focus groups are. Like, that's what it's about. It's about the Southwest DeKalb alumni. I just organize it. I just sign paperwork. I, just stand out front. That's it. So I guess my question would be, where does the line, where is it blurred between what I'm actually, what I call it and what I'm actually doing?
Well, from my perspective, where the blurring of the lines are is that would be like you saying, this is the City of Atlanta festival, and the City of Atlanta, you're saying, has no say in anything. So this being I understand you're saying you've said in the past, this is the Danny show. Okay, well, it can be the Danny show, but when you're attaching Southwest DeKalb to it, that's where I believe the lines are blurred, because you're hoping and wanting Southwest DeKalb people to show up. So if it's not the Southwest DeKalb reunion, then let it be Danny's reunion. Because I know for years this was the reunion sponsored by Rick somebody, and I'm sorry, I don't know him. When he was at Southwest DeKalb, I wasn't there. So supposedly this guy sponsored it for years. Now, to me, sponsorship means that he's paying for it all. So this is the first I've heard you say that even during the years that he was sponsoring it, that you were still paying. That's the first I've heard.
So let me say this, and I'm a member of other organizations, and there are times when we are hosting an event and we have different entities that want to be a part of it, and they join on as partners, and most times they join on as sponsors, and they may cover a particular portion. They contribute some resources or services to the event, but that doesn't necessarily mean that now that because we have a sponsor or multiple sponsors, that the organization that's actually putting on the event can no longer collect fees for the service that they're providing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so, Mickey, I guess I would ask, Danny, let me ask you this question first. Has the Southwest DeKalb administration been a part of this, and have they had any problem with this festival?
Actually, the administration, when Dr. Glanton, the previous principal that was there, when he was there, they actually came to a couple festivals. They came to 17 and 18, and I don't remember if 19, if they came in 19, but they haven't had a problem with it. I haven't had, the only problem I have ever had as far as administration or administration of the county, anything like that, was particularly because it was so many of us, and the numbers didn't actually, well, it wound up being more people than I actually predicted, right? So that was one of the things that I got in trouble for a couple of years with the county, and not necessarily got in trouble, but they were like, hey, you misled us on the numbers. And, but other than that, I haven't had any problems from administration, from Southwest DeKalb, from the county, parks and recreation. No, I haven't had any problems with anybody. To answer your question, I know that was a long answer, but, to answer your question. And let me say something else real quick before you speak, Marlon.
Go ahead.
You're absolutely right as far as the sponsorship part. Just piggybacking off what you said, there was a portion that Rick Bush covered, but it was a semantics things for, like, he wanted it to say sponsored, right? So hey, cool. He was the only one, so I just did it that way based upon what his contribution was to what I was collecting from the other classmates, right? And that was even me saying it's going to be hard for people to understand this costs a lot of money. So I'm only going to ask for this amount. And hopefully through my own funds, and hey, Rick is going to help out too, it's going to be what it has turned into.
And I'm going to say that definitely makes sense. But I think when we, even way back when we saw the verbiage and it said sponsored by, gave the impression that he was taking care of everything. So again, that's where misunderstandings can come from. And that's where it's great that it's your vision, but what you want to do is make sure people understand. And I think
that's what this is, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation. And we're absolutely going to have to do a part 2 to this. I think this is a good stopping point to wrap up, because we've discussed the history, we've discussed the conflicts, we've even discussed not really all the rumors, but we've discussed that there has been some controversy and backroom conversations, parking lot conversations about this. But I would love to have you both back with hopefully better connections and do a part 2. And the next question is going to be, where do we go from here? And, we will also get some more clarity about where the confusion came in and maybe what we could have done differently and what we will do better in the future. But, like I told both of you, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I just want to see Southwest DeKalb alumni happy. I want to see us do what we can for the school and be the example that we have always been. But I definitely want to tell both of you how much I appreciate you and thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you.
And just like you guys, I love Southwest DeKalb. I bleed that navy blue and old gold, just like the both of you do. And I feel like one of our biggest strengths and superpowers as a school and as an alumni association was our unity and our family cohesiveness. And hopefully that's something we can put together and promote moving forward. So is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up? Mickey, let you go first.
Oh, well, just thank you for starting this conversation and this dialogue, for, taking ownership of it and allowing us to discuss it a little bit, because, there are questions, and there, like you said, there are a lot of backroom conversations. And if this allows it to clear up some of those backroom conversations, then I'm all for the hard questions and the hard answers.
Thank you. Danny?
Yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity to talk, man. I think this is the best setting to do it in. With a neutral party that's also a part of the actual alumni. And so I think even addressing it that way by saying, you don't have a dog in the hunt, I think that, wanting to get to the actual meat and the fruit of how things transpired and, why things transpired, I think that's actually great. So I'm here for it, man. Whenever we need to do the second part, man, I'm here for it.